Okay, we are now recording, just so you're aware. So even myself, I'll have to be on my best behavior. And then just a little bit of etiquette is if you're not speaking, please mute your microphone just to avoid background noises and the occasional random cat or dog that comes in. I know I've had that problem myself. But I want to thank you and welcome everyone for coming today to the graduation and celebration meeting for the 2020 North and West Youth Eco Ambassador Programs. It's really a delight to have you all here just to see what the youth have been able to accomplish this year. So I'm especially excited to see so many other faces besides the ecos on board. And then it looks like Brian, our executive director, just jumped on. He was actually in another celebration meeting a minute ago. So I'm actually going to, here was basically the overview of what we were going to do today. Brian was going to give a brief welcome and a shout out to a couple people. I was going to give a program overview. Caesar, which is the youth program coordinator and the Chicago leader, he's going to have an opportunity to talk to you all as he's excited to jump into our meeting. And then the youth are going to have a chance to share their leadership projects, which is really exciting. It's basically the culmination of the program. And then I have some fancy certificates and thank yous to give out. And so in the middle there of the leadership projects, we have to do a lot of passing off of control. So I hope you bear with us at that time and just know that, you know, we might have some technical fun as we go along. Brian, did you want to say a couple words now?
Absolutely. Thanks, Dan. Hey, everybody. Good to see your faces and good to meet many of you. I'm Reverend Brian Saudas, Executive Director of Faith in Place. And I just took the long road trip from Champaign-Urbana, where I gave a word of welcome to the Eco Ambassador Program there, all the way up to the North West Suburbs with you all to say hello. And I'm just delighted. You know, when the pandemic hit at Faith in Place, you know, we did a gut check as a staff team and like what really matters right now in this moment. How do we need to be investing our time and our resources? And we came together as a team, said we need to be making sure that our youth programs happen this summer in a safe way, in a virtual way, in an interactive way. And the reports that I'm getting of all the leadership projects that you all have been working on as Eco Ambassadors in Northwest Suburbs is very inspiring to me. I can't wait to hear more. I've been following everything that's been going on. And I just want to extend my welcome to also all the parents and the donors that have supported, who've made this project possible. You know, it's not easy to support financially during the middle of a pandemic. Many people have stepped up and given to Faith in Place. And we continue to fundraise for our youth program, knowing that we want to continue to invest in our high school age students all across the state of Illinois so that we can continue to lead the movement of the environmental movement towards justice, to be climate justice champions in our community. So I don't want to go on too long, but I just want to give a huge shout out. Believe it or not, we got so much going on tonight. I'm actually going to be taking a road trip down to Southern Illinois where a whole workshop is happening about environmental justice on the Zoom platform as well. So I'm going to jump into that too and talk to some green teams. But to all of our parents, to the students, the Eco Ambassadors, a big congratulations from me to all of you. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Dan to take it to the next program overview.
Thanks, Brian. We really appreciate you stopping by with your busy schedule. So thank you very much, and happy electronic traveling to Central Illinois.
Here we go. Thanks all.
Can you all still see my screen where it's at? Because normally there's like a yellow band around my screen that I'm sharing, but there isn't one now. But you can see where it says Brian, Executive Director, is highlighted. Okay, great. So I thought what I would do is I would do a little bit of a program overview for everyone, just to touch base and make sure we all kind of have a basic understanding of what we talked about during the program and just celebrate what we went over. So the first week was on climate change and solutions. And I think one of the biggest things that we focus on is this is our only planet. There's no planet B. It hopefully gave the youth a really good, solid foundation about climate change, the effects, what actually causes it, what we can do to be part of the solution, and that solutions are happening at an accelerating pace all the time, all over the world. And so it gives a lot of hope. We don't like to focus just on doom and gloom. We try to give a reality check of where we actually are, but then focus a lot on hope and solutions and what we can do about it. So I think it was a pretty cool week. The second week we did sustainable food and land use, where we had a guest speaker, Mark Kripchenia, come in, and he talked about ecology and ecosystems and how we're a part of that, and we need it to survive. It was a great week. I think that we also talked about water some that week, and everybody seemed to enjoy it a lot. Week 3 was all about advocacy and what I call feelergy, and also that there's no secret ingredient, because after the first 2 weeks, we realized that so many of our issues are systemic. You know, like individual action only gets us so far. So we were really building up to, we need to take action together in order to bring about really long-lasting, healthy changes for everyone. So we had 2 guest speakers that week, Veronica Kyle from Faith and Place staff, and Pastor Anque, our Faith and Place policy director. Veronica is our statewide outreach director. And I think the youth really connected with them as they shared, especially Veronica, she shared her personal story through environmental racism and what she felt growing up. Feelergy is all about harnessing the emotions that naturally come up when we're facing an issue. No matter what the issue is, we have a rush of feelings and are accompanied by energy. And if we stuff those down, we get depleted and depressed. And I know that I always say, I'm not just the president, I'm also a client when it comes to that. I've experienced that in my life over and over again. And so we really focused a lot in the program of sharing not what we thought, but what we felt, what we were going through, and kind of, shared those emotions together and realized that they're actually good, even if they're uncomfortable at times, because we need that energy to take action, and that we have those emotional reactions in order to take action. And then this no secret ingredient basically focuses on that, the empowerment piece of the program, of really that if you have that connection to something you love, and then you see, of course, hey, it's really threatened by climate change. I have that connection and I can't live without it. I love this. That's really all you need to start your journey down being an activist and advocating for healthy changes. There's no other secret ingredient that you really need to start the journey. And you can pick up many things along the way that you actually need to accomplish your goals, but that's the real secret ingredient, is just being a person, letting your feels happen, knowing what you love, and then stepping up and fighting for it. And then we focused, of course, here's the nice big picture of, we focus on, with advocacy, big ideas that help everyone, that don't just marginally peck away at the problem, but they really help solve the problem. It focuses on we the people, it helps everybody, and we the people get involved. So we need a large swath of the population, different groups getting involved. And then we take action, which is really important, and then that's what brings about healthy changes. And then week 4, we pivoted to leadership projects, where it's all about, what do youth want to do? So it's not about me telling them what they should do, but they all came up with an overall project that they wanted to focus on, which they'll tell you about. I'm not going to steal their thunder there. But it was really cool to see the transformation of, wow, I got all this information and maybe I'm inspired, but what do I do about it? To really have them hone in and create projects that are tangible, that they can actually do. And so it's going to be exciting to also support them ongoing. We're actually, I think a key component is to provide support for the youth ongoing, and not just in this program, but to really set them up for success. And so we can check in where the youth probably want to stay in touch, but also for me to give support, and so help them overcome roadblocks and just touch in. They can share cool things that are happening in their projects together, because they have common threads, which you'll see. So they can help each other share and celebrate their successes. Because then in the end, it's all about action, which is which leads to change. So it's been a really exciting program. I've really enjoyed it this year, and I'll talk more about how cool the youth were later. But I see that Caesar jumped to, hi Caesar. Caesar is actually, like I mentioned earlier, the entire youth program coordinator, and he led specifically the Chicago program, but gave all the other programs a lot of support, and I really enjoyed working with him this year. It was his second year actually being the program coordinator, and he brings so much to the program. So I really wanted him to stop by and give us some thoughts, share some thoughts about the program with you all. And so he was just in the Central Illinois program, and now he jumped into ours. So I really appreciate you coming by, Caesar. What would you like to share with us today?
Hey, Dan, thank you for the introduction. Hey, Mia, Katie, Eva, Grace, and Jacob. It's nice to see you again. But yeah, my name is Caesar, and I am the program coordinator, as Dan mentioned. And one of the things that we've been focusing on this year is, how do we convert and transition to virtual learning? And it was an experience for everybody from the learning staff to the youth as well. And I know that parents are in for it again because the school year is probably going to be virtual. So I wish parents the best of luck in that. And the main reason why I want to join this session and the things that I want to share is I want to share some information with Eco Ambassadors. I want to help you think about the ways to leverage this experience for your future success. The reason being is that you came at such a very pivotal time, really in history, with what's going on in regards to social justice, environmental justice, the COVID-19 pandemic, the transition to online learning. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share a brief presentation to help you think about the different ways you can leverage this experience for your future success. And then you can feel free to reach out to me or Dan if you have any other questions. So without further ado, I am going to pull up my PowerPoint. Can everybody see the PowerPoint? Can I get a thumbs up? All right, great, great. Well, first of all, congratulations. Second, this is the way we're going to leverage our experience, right? We have extracurricular portfolios that we can include our Faith in Place experience in. We have educational and professional success that we can also include our Faith in Place experience, and our own experience in Faith in Place can help us still move forward in Faith in Place as an organization itself. So what is an extracurricular portfolio? That is a portfolio. It's similar to a resume that you make for your college applications or also for your job applications. So Faith in Place is a good experience to write into your resume. And the different topics that you can write about, are virtual learning, are about environmental justice, is about collaborative teamwork in a virtual setting. There's a lot of also other skills that you may have gained with Dan. And if you want to explore that more, you can always feel free to reach out to Dan or me. Also, your leadership project is a very good point to talk about when you're, for example, applying to college or another job opportunity, because there's a story behind it, right? You're working to solve a problem, you care about that problem, and once you personalize that story, you can use that leadership project to your advantage when you do apply to college, because you can discover your own story and your own passions through this leadership project. So I definitely encourage you, if you did not finish your leadership project even during this short 4-week program, you can continue to do that and work with your peers and your community. Okay, moving forward, educational and professional. Well, this is an opportunity for mentorship as well. I'm sure that you've met other virtual speakers come into your program. You can always reach out to those virtual speakers through email, through LinkedIn, and whatever other way, contact information that you have for them. Mentorship can lead to other things such as letters of recommendations for other job opportunities, and also for future job applications in environmental justice, right? I can't tell you and I can't emphasize enough like how many of my own job opportunities have come from my personal network of people that I've met from other programs. So if you did meet someone and someone did stand out to you, please let Dan know, and please let me know so that we can connect you to them. And then lastly, within Faith in Place as an organization itself, there's always room to move from an eco ambassador into an Earth Ally position, which is a leadership position, and Mia is in that position today and this year. And for the Chicago program, we also have a youth facilitators position, which is another leadership position, similar to Earth Ally, but they have a little bit different responsibilities. But lastly, within Faith in Place, we're always going to have virtual and community events hosted by Faith in Place. Also, sometimes we'll have job opportunities coming through. So we definitely encourage you to stay connected. And we are also going to do our best to stay connected with your youth for these potential opportunities. And these are the basic ways to leverage your experience. And if you do have questions, I know that was a lot, please do reach out to me so that I can help you think about that more. And I wish you the best in your upcoming school year, any scholarship applications that you have, and your quest for environmental and social justice. And without further ado, I'll give this back to Dan and unshare my screen. Boom. Yeah, thanks, Dan, for the platform to kind of share that important information.
Yeah, thanks, Caesar. Greatly appreciate you coming in and sharing that. That's really important information for the youth just to consider and just to know about going forward. Some of the best ways to get jobs with organizations is through volunteer things or opportunities like this. So we'd say keep in mind, you know, opportunities to volunteer with us and other stuff going forward. And like Caesar said, there's the opportunity to grow. So everybody who is a eco ambassador this year can apply next year and be in the program again. It might be in person then, we don't know. And also you can apply to be an Earth Ally, which is a more of a leadership position. You get paid a little bit more too to do that. So that's always, because we do pay you like it is a job. So more responsibility, more pay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for having me. And I will move out, okay?
Thanks, Caesar.
Bye, everybody. And good to meet you that one day when we all came together. That was pretty fun playing that virtual game of Kahoot. So it was good to meet you all on that day.
So now we're going to move into the part of the graduation and celebration program. We're really going to spotlight the youth and the kind of the culmination of the program and what they take all their education and their inspiration and hopefully empowerment and what they want to do now to help be part of the solution. So Katie and Mia are first. They're kind of going to frame the problem. And then remember the order is Jack, Jacob, Grace, and Ava. We're going to be switching back and forth where people are going to be sharing their screens. So there might be little tiny intermissions between. So bear with us as we switch back and forth. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and let Katie and Mia take over.
Yeah, so Katie and I were going to do a verbal presentation, and then the youth I think we're going to share their slideshows. So the problem that I am highlighting is food waste, and this is a current problem that the specific North and West Eco Ambassadors are going to try to solve within their communities. So we're specifically focusing on food waste within landfills, and landfills themselves are a top source of methane emissions. And within these landfills, food consists of 20%. So food makes up 20% of a landfill. So how does food turn into methane gas? Well, to break it down, food starts to decompose aerobically, which means it requires air to decompose. So the small bacteria will decompose it with air. But within less than a year, it starts to decompose anaerobically, which means without air. And this bacteria actually is the one that releases the methane gas back into the air. And methane gas is extremely harmful to our atmosphere, but also it has negative effects on the residents of Earth and also its animals. So how can we reduce our methane emissions regarding to food waste? It's actually very simple, and it's composting. So composting, the cool thing about it is it can actually be done anaerobically and aerobically. And anaerobically, the way it's done is a more fancy way and requires more money, but it's actually a closed system, so you're not releasing any of that methane back into the air. But the more common and the more affordable option is aerobic composting, and that is the one that is more, that is usually seen in your backyard. So composting actually has a huge benefit to the environment, and it also can help farmers, since the soil is so rich and rich in nutrients. It can help restore soil back to its original content, but also it can help with crop yield, and it can also help with water retention, which helps with communities that often flood. It can help soak up that water to prevent future flooding. So in our local, how does composting affect our current local solutions? And so, as I mentioned before, composting is an aerobic decomposition, but there's also municipal composting, and that's within your city, and that's a program that offers curbside food scrap collection. And basically you have to follow whatever your city, their requirements are, if that's a weight, or you have to put it in a biodegradable bag, and you have to put a food tag on it, but they come and pick it up for you, and then they compost that. There's also an option in which it's more, I think is more efficient, in which you have an actual garbage can, like the one on the right on the slideshow, and you put your food scraps in it, and then a company or the city will come and pick it up and take it away for you, from you. But there's also residential composting, and that is just an individual or a household composting within their own backyard. So they use their own food scraps or food scraps from friends, and it's a great way to reduce methane emissions in regards to food waste, and overall it's very, very beneficial to the environment. And so the eco ambassadors are going to tell you how they're going to focus on solving food waste within their own communities, and a specific example of how they're going to do that. But right now, Katie is going to present on her topic of plastic waste.
All right. Hi, guys. Thank you, Mia. So I'm going to start talking about plastic waste. And like Mia said, there's two guys who are going to talk about plastic waste and are going to try to solve plastic waste in their community. So I'm going to give you some background on it. So the reason why 9% is up there is a little scary, but it's because only 9% of like plastic waste is recycled. I thought that was astounding. And so according to an article from National Geographic, of the 8.3 billion metric tons that has been produced, 6.3 metric tons have become like plastic waste. And of that, only 9% has been recycled. And the vast majority, which is 79%, is accumulating in landfills or going into the natural environment or water. So the plastic in the ocean is kind of scary. There's a statistic out there somewhere that says that there's going to be more plastic in the ocean than there's going to be fish in a couple years. That plastic comes in various different ways. It can be microplastic or just like a sludge on top of the surface of the water, which can be very, very harmful for marine life that's below the surface of the water. They can also eat the plastic, which is really bad, and then we end up eating those animals, or some of us end up eating those animals, and then we get that plastic into us. So it's kind of a crazy cycle, and it always gets back to us. Any way that we put it, it harms us. It's also scary and horrifying because plastic lasts 500 to 1,000 years, which means that the plastic that we have produced in our lifetime is still going to be around by the time that we die. So our kids and our kids' kids are going to have to deal with all this plastic, and it's not good. So I'm gonna talk about the solutions, or solutions. So a big solution is informing people about how to recycle their plastics. So recycling can be really helpful, but it's only really helpful if you know how to. So as you see on this image, there's different types of recycling processes. So certain recycling plants only recycle a certain type of plastic. And if you don't send your plastic to the right recycling facility, it gets thrown into the landfill, which is part of the problem why only 9% of the recycling is getting recycled. There's also local solutions like giving your plastic bags to a collection in a grocery store, which is oftentimes where I find them, and they'll turn them into something else and or recycle them. And an obvious one, which is a big one, is source reduction. So it's taking out plastic entirely out of the equation. There's so many other different ways to package products and send out things that we need sent out. There's glass and cardboard and a whole bunch of other stuff. So food waste and plastic are two things that the Eco Ambassadors are trying to focus on and solve in their communities. So I'm gonna hand it off to them. Thanks.
So first up, we have Jack giving his leadership project. Jack, are you able to share your screen? Or Katie, you might have to stop sharing first. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think she might have to stop sharing, but then I'm good.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, you can see my presentation.
Yeah, we can see it.
All right. So my name is Jack Hagenbook. I'm one of the Eco Ambassadors, and this is a composting program that I'm trying to implement in my school right now. And I was really excited to hear that we're going to be doing a composting or a waste reduction plan as our project for this year. I think it's really neat because it's something I'm also passionate about, so that made me really excited about it. And when I was starting to think of this project, I first wanted to make an outline. That way it'd be a lot easier to know what steps I have coming up and what steps I have to deal with right now. So my outline was pretty simple. It was just 2 steps. First, I wanted to find a company who has a composting program in Palatine. The reason why I want to find a company as opposed to going to my school and asking them to start one is that with an outside company, they've been doing it for a while and they have gotten over some of the hiccups that can come with starting a new composting program. And it also costs less money to go with a company versus doing it inside your school. And the second step of my plan was to convince this company to partner with my school and vice versa. So that's actually my school photo down there. I go to Palatine High School. I'm going to be a senior this year. And after making this project outline, this 2-step plan, it seemed pretty easy. I didn't think that it would take too long to accomplish, but I quickly realized that there would be some problems with that as I started to do more research. So some of the barriers that I came up with is that there wasn't a composting service, to my knowledge, that operates in Palatine. I was actually, before this, kind of hoping that we could partner with a group we talked with during the program, which is Collective Resource. And I was very excited. We talked to one of the workers there, and after we were done, I checked the website, but they don't operate in Palatine. So I realized I'd have to find a way around that. And the second barrier is that I need funding to have a composting program. I think it'd be pretty hard for my school to get interested in something if they didn't know where the money to fund it would be coming from. And the third problem I found out was COVID-19, obviously. It seems pretty hard to get change done during this time when we're so isolated, and it sort of makes you lose hope a bit. But I've been working hard to find some ways around these problems, and I think I have a good idea. So for the first problem, not having a composting service in Palatine, I had two ways I could tackle this. Either I could convince Collective Resource, the company that I just talked about, to expand their area. It wouldn't be too far from where they currently operate. And I think that if they're doing it for a school, which would be such a big client, it'd be a bit easier to make them want to expand. But even if they don't, then I would think about talking to my local government. There's a lot of grants out there for communities trying to do environmental service projects, and I think starting a composting program would be something worthy of a grant. The second barrier I want to overcome is not having enough funding. So for this, I looked at how we get funding for a lot of things in my school, and that's through clubs running fundraisers. So I checked my website for my school, and I actually realized we had an ecology club, and I thought that was really neat. So I'm planning to partner with them and also an environmental science class program to help start a fundraiser to fund this project. And the third problem that I've overcome is COVID-19, which is sort of slowing change, and it's not helping me to get this project moving as fast as I'd like. And the way I overcame that, or the way that I've changed my outlook on that, is through this program. It's really helped me realize how fast we can make change, even though we're in very strange times. And it really gives me hope, because even with so much going on in the world, so many bad things, we can still get kids together, and we can still be passionate about environmental justice, and we can still learn more about it and how we can help affect it and change our communities for the better. And even though that's the end of my presentation, that's just the beginning of my project. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. And then one thing that we were going to do, since we kind of skipped over me and Katie, maybe we'll shift your share to the end. But I wanted to give each youth about 2 minutes just to do a personal reflection besides their leadership project, just some things that maybe stood out in the program to you and what was like most meaningful for you. So Jack, I was going to give the floor back to you. So you have about 2 minutes to do your kind of personal reflection besides your leadership project.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so one of the things I think about most when reflecting back on this program is how I got interested in it and how I got connected to it. And it's a pretty neat story. I was actually working on a ecological restoration project with my church when they told me about this opportunity. And it showed me that that even though like I didn't have much information about it going into it, if I go where I'm passionate and I start trying to do things that'll help the environment, I'll find more ways to do it, and I'll find more communities to do it with. And that's what I found here at Faith in Place. And I think this program is amazing. It's a pretty rare one from what I've experienced, at least. I don't see a lot of like environmentally conscious programs around me, and I feel very blessed to be a part of it. We cover a lot of interesting issues, a lot of them that I'm passionate with, especially sustainable food and land usage, because I want to go into agriculture as a profession. And I think that it's such a great resource as a kid, and even for while we're in coronavirus quarantine, it's nice that I can still get some learning done while I'm in there. And yeah, that's what I think about when I reflect on the program.
Cool. Thanks for sharing, Jack. And then I think Jacob is next, and I'm actually sharing my screen for Jacob in order to get the slideshow up. So let me bring that up real quick. It's still called Final Project Presentation, right, Jacob?
Yeah.
Okay, let me load it here. And then the second part, I'm going to share my screen. And then just let me know when you want to switch between the slides. Sound good?
So the problem that we're tackling is waste production from schools. And Dan, if you could go to the next slide, please. The problem is excessive waste from schools, and the solutions that I've came up is decrease plastic and paper waste and reduce the amount of food that's thrown away in the garbage bins outside of the school cafeteria. And the initial steps consist of talking to school officials in the local area and to create more recycling and composting stations and bins in the school to decrease food waste. And some barriers that can get in the way can be very challenging, can be not enough participating schools and too much waste. And especially in these times, since a lot of schools aren't reopening or where parents just want their kids to staying home, then we can't really tackle that issue as much, because if no one's going to school, then they're not wasting anything. So, but why I'm involved is basically this needs to stop, since we need action now, and educating others and youth is very important. And food waste is a global issue, especially for people who don't have easy access to healthy and clean food. And the amount of food that my school cafeteria wastes in a single day is immense. And the greater amount of food in the landfills, the more methane gases are released into the atmosphere and contribute to climate change. So it just becomes a bigger problem, and it multiplies every day. Can you go to the next slide, please? How I would educate the school is I would present the short film documentary called The Story of Plastic, and provide multiple links to documentaries and videos about how plastic and food waste should be recycled and composted. And the school that I go to is called John Hersey High School, at the bottom of the left screen. And luckily, my school is already ahead of the game and getting down to business. So they've already implemented school iPads, so we don't really use paper for tests and assignments. So every day we already save paper. But to decrease paper and plastic pollution, they created the school online. And basically, we don't really have assignments on paper or tests on paper either. And next slide. What success looks like among this program in individuals. School lunches with less plastic packaging, and instead of throwing the food away uselessly into the garbage can right outside of the cafeteria, we can compost it and luckily create our own garden in the back of the school, because that's what my environmental club already does. And in schools, composting stations and bins around the school, and encouraging students to not throw away food, and to also encourage them to not buy plastic packaged food and water bottles. Especially since my school, because we have the water fountains where you can just put your water bottle in for reusable water bottles. And my school has stopped selling water bottles and single-use plastic packaging drinks. And how would we do this is talking to clubs such as Student Council and the Environmental Club at my school, and seeing if they're interested in educating the students on why this is an important issue and we need to find solutions on it today, and why it's important to tackle this issue in schools. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you for the presentation, Jacob. I thought you did a good job on that. Do you have about 2 minutes to do a personal reflection, about anything, the things that stood out to you in the program, things that give you hope, things like that. So you can unmute yourself and I'll mute myself so you have the floor.
Well, what gave me hope is when I first joined this program and when I first found out about it, because when I heard that it was for youth and kids my age, that sort of gave me hope because I never really knew that there was this much youth interested in fighting for climate justice and fighting for climate solutions. So that definitely gave me hope, since I'm always seeing a lot of politicians talk about a green future and we're not really getting it. So seeing that more kids are interested in it, and especially meeting the other kids from the other program, definitely gave me hope. And one thing that I think is great is that we all got to connect and meet with other kids from the Chicago program and from the Central Illinois program. So it was just an amazing experience to get to know other people who are interested in the same things.
Cool. And then Grace, you're next. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then that should allow you to share your screen. And then I'll go ahead and mute myself. And then after your presentation, feel free to go right into your reflection on the program too.
Okay. So this is my project on waste production. And I'm from Oak Park, so I'm focusing overall on my community, but specifically on my school, Oak Park and River Forest High School, and my house of worship, which is Ascension Catholic Church. So Oak Park has a composting service already, only within Oak Park. And so and it runs year round, and they serve single family and 5 flat households. So because the composting is already a pretty big thing happening within Oak Park, I decided to focus in more on plastic, but still keeping in composting in mind. And my overall goals are to raise awareness and educate about waste production, and hopefully significantly reduce plastic in school, my house of worship, and or homes. So my initial steps, I would think to perform a waste audit, at homes, schools, or my school and my house of worship, so that we can record what we're essentially wasting and throwing away. Meeting with the staff I think is important, because I need to convince the school and my house of worship that this is a problem, and that we need to do something about it. And also, since they're already doing a composting program, I would like to speak to them about what they're doing in that process, so that we can create like a guide or a toolkit for other schools and set an example. I also think sharing or providing videos of the harms of plastic would be pretty helpful, along with creating pamphlet guides for how to change or reduce plastic waste at home, and also how to start composting at home. I also think it would be important to provide water bottles and reusable containers, like the school, I think, should provide that. And if that was a problem, then I would, my plan would be essentially to have a fundraiser so that we could provide it for all students. And then one source that I found was really helpful to look at was Plastic-Free Campuses Toolkit, and it's on this website called Break Free from Plastic, and it's just a guide on how to start reducing plastic in schools. So I thought that was pretty helpful. Who I figured would be my partners or allies in this project would be the environmental club, PTA, the staff at the school or church, and environmental science classes, because I think they'd all be interested in this issue, and they could help bring voice to what I'm focusing on. So possible barriers, I would really like to reduce plastic bottles in general, but that's a problem because school contracts, I mean, they have contracts with these companies, and you can't just convince school to like throw away everything, especially if this is something they're paying for. So I would assume, I would suggest solutions after the contract ends so that we can start implementing change. And then plastic is so commonly used, so that's kind of hard to just get rid of altogether, but slowly I would, try and help implement different solutions and alternatives, and informing people. I mean, it's not something, I don't want to tell anyone how to live or how to, yeah, but I think informing people in general is just important, and we're not forcing ideas upon anyone. We're just educating and trying to help people live better. And then COVID-19 is definitely a barrier because, well, I most likely am not going to school. It's going to be strictly online. So reaching out to people won't be as easy, but technology will definitely help me there, and it's still possible. So yeah. So success to me would be helping people make smarter choices, seeing them make smarter choices in general, using alternatives to plastic, and definitely implementing permanent alternatives to plastic. So no more, plastic water bottles or straws or plastic utensils like in the cafeteria that we use. And then influencing other schools or places like other houses of worship to follow our example. And one reason why plastic reduction is really important to me, because it's a really big issue, especially how it's affecting marine life. And as Katie said earlier, what the fish eat, and then we eat it at the end, and it's just like an endless harmful cycle. And also, even a lot of plastic isn't recyclable, and even if it is, it can only be recycled 2 to 3 times, I read, before you have to start creating other materials to make it last longer. So I just think that there are other ways or other materials we could use other than plastic that would be useful. And that's my project. I know he'll tell me. Oh, wait, okay. So for the program, I think it was really, the food sustainability week was very important to me, because it taught, we learned about factory farms and agriculture, and it actually pushed me to become vegetarian. It was already on my mind before I had started the program, but this really encouraged me, especially learning about the effects that meat consumption has on climate change. So I think that week was pretty important for me, and it impacted me a lot. And overall, I had a lot of fun because, I got to meet all these new people, and people that had the same interest as me. And environmental justice was definitely something on my mind and something I wanted to start learning about more. And this just helped jumpstart that process. So it was really good to be a part of this, and I'm happy I did it this summer.
Thank you, Grace. Good job on your presentation, and thank you for also sharing. Ava, you're next. I think Grace has already stopped sharing her screen. I think you could share your screen and then roll with your leadership project presentation.
All right.
So my idea was to create a composting program at my school and hopefully later on my house of worship. So as I said, I want to create a composting program that collects food scraps and transports them to a larger program that will collect them for us and compost them. So this is better than on-site composting, which can require more manpower and can take up time and space. So if I find a program to do this, it would be a lot more efficient and cost saving. And also fundraising through selling sustainable Tupperware containers, as you can see below here, would I think be a good way to make money for these compost bins and for the program as well. And this might be an issue with coronavirus because fundraising might not be readily available. So we'll have to update the plan as we see fit. And sort of my reasoning for creating this program is just because I get kind of frustrated seeing all the good waste and composting that is just thrown away at school that can be used in like farms or even at home. So I have a few steps to action that I want to undertake. First would be to create or to just sort of find out what my town's program or if they already have a toolbox for composting. And I read on my town's website, which is Wheaton, that they do have a yard waste collection program that runs from April to December, but not all year round. So I'm going to find out if they have an all year round program that they could implement at our school. Next, I am going to decide if my school can be able to undertake this program. And if they do, that's great. And hopefully later on, I want to continue the program to my house of worship. And I'm lucky because my brother already decided that he would like this to be his bar mitzvah project. So he agreed to do this with me, and it's nice to have another helping hand with it. Third, I am going to find a composting organization. So if my town doesn't already have a program or a toolbox, I'll have to look up a composting organization like we talked about before that will take the compost for us and put it in a facility. Next, I will find partners, and I've already communicated with my environmental club, and they seem like they are on board with it. But also, I think the PTA and environmental science classes could be a good resource for it. Next, I will have to fundraise for the compost bins, as I said before, hopefully selling Tupperware containers, which can also tackle the problem of plastic waste at school. Next, I'll purchase the bins and sort of find a system of composting to see who will be taking care of the bins, and maybe the custodian staff would do that. Seventh, I will educate my peers. And as you can see on the side here, I sort of have an idea of a compost guide that I could use at my school just so people know what are acceptable materials and what are not acceptable materials. And I would put this poster around my school, but also on social media. And I sort of hope that if people see these in the school, that they will just sort of inspire individual action so people feel more motivated to compost and sort of throw away the right materials once they see these. And lastly, and this is an important step, I'm going to have to update my plan for coronavirus as see fit because it's going to be constantly changing, but I am prepared for it. So lastly, I'm just going to talk about a few project goals that I have. So first of all, I just hope to create a lasting program that will continue on after I graduate from high school or after I move away from this area, just so that it becomes sort of a bigger organization and more people are on board to help. And I think it'll be more effective that way, just so it inspires more people to help with it. Next, I am trying to accomplish this within 1 to 2 years. I think that's a reasonable timeline because if it's too soon, then I don't think it can be accomplished. But with coronavirus restrictions, then I think this is a reasonable timeline. Next, I just want people to be more curious about sustainability and sort of ask more questions about it, because I think if people see that our school is composting, then they will just ask more questions and look stuff up themselves to see what they can take in their own lives that is sustainable. And the last two, I just hope that I inspire people to take further action against climate change and that people are just motivated to help with my project. So overall, I just hope to create a composting program at my school and my house of worship. Thank you for listening. And just to talk about the program a little bit, I would have to say that I didn't know exactly what I was getting into, but I'm so glad that I decided to join because especially the educational portion, it was just really eye-opening. And I had like a brief overview of in my head of what climate change was and some climate ideas that were out there, but I didn't really have a concrete understanding. So this really helped with that. And it was really fun to be with a group of other young people who were also inspired to take action. And overall, it just inspired me to help out in the future, whether that's like at school or just in my own life, and gave me really good resources to help with that as well. And it sort of gave me a feeling of accomplishment as well, because during the summer, I don't usually do much. And this has been a passion of mine for a long time. So it was very nice just to hear about things and also accomplish things as well.
Cool. Thank you for sharing your leadership project and your reflections there. And then we skipped over Katie and Mia at the beginning. Do you two want to take turns going Katie, then Mia, your just reflections about the program, things you maybe learned, you know, whatever. Katie, you want to go first?
Sure. So this is my second year. Last year we did a week of learning and then did a camping trip. So I'm sad that you guys didn't get to do that because that was really fun. But I'm excited that we got 3 more weeks of being together and learning together. This year we covered some interesting topics. We had time for a lot more. We watched a cool documentary on this farm that was sustainable, and that stood out to me a lot and gives me hope because there's something that we can base other farms off of, so we have an example and we know that it works. They had a lot of cool solutions for like they had a whole bunch of snails on some trees, so they were like, oh, we can solve this naturally, and they just unleashed a whole bunch of ducks. So I thought that was cool that you can solve nature's problems with nature's, with nature. Solve nature with nature. But yeah, so it was really fun to see a new group of people and hear new ideas. Like Jack brought up aqua farming and aquaponics. And there's another one that I forgot. But that was something that I haven't heard in a while, so that was really interesting to hear about, that you can farm without using a whole bunch of water and a whole bunch of chemicals and fertilizers, so that was interesting.
So this is my 3rd year in the program and my 2nd year in a leadership position. And I can say that from my first year, it was 3 people, then it was 4 people, and now it's 6 people in the program. So it's been really fun and kind of motivating to see that we're reaching more people and that more youth want to get involved and want to actively work to solve climate change. But I really love this program because it's kind of helped me focus on what I want to do in life, whether that's environmental work or raising awareness about the environment. And it's also given me great leadership skills, and especially now since we're online, it's kind of prepped me for a new kind of era of learning, and I think it has for everyone else too. But overall, this program has been such a fun thing for me to do, and such a educational and thing that has allowed me to really connect with a passion I never really knew I had. And I'm really happy that my last year I got to end it with such amazing people.
Thank you everyone for sharing your projects and also some reflections on what you got out of the program. So I want to move along for the sake. We are running a little bit over. I apologize. We'll probably be another 10 minutes or so. I apologize that we're past 8. Sometimes things take a little bit longer. So we're going to do certificates and thank yous. So we actually usually have physical certificates, but Ava, this is a digital representation of your certificate, and I'm going to send you a digital, and then we're also going to mail actual physical copies. But I really appreciated you in the program. I thought you brought a lot in. I thought you were very thoughtful, you're very team oriented, and helped move the team along in discussions and help solidify what we were all going to work on together. And you were very engaged throughout the whole program, and you're highly participatory, and I just really appreciated that in the program. And you brought a lot, so I really appreciated you being in the program. Grace, this is a digital representation of your certificate. I really appreciated you being in the program. I thought you were very inquisitive. You asked a lot of questions always. You're a very expressive person. I think you're a good listener where you listen to what other youth have to say, and then you would ask questions or kind of bring things together. So I thought you did a really good job at that, and I really appreciated you being in the program. I thought you brought a lot, and I just thank you for being part of the program. Jack, this is a digital representation of your certificate. I thought you were really great in the program where you focused a lot on teamwork. You were really good as well as far as like when we would have discussions and kind of solidifying ideas. You were very much focused on how we can do things to benefit everyone. So I really appreciated that. I think you're also very logical. You approach things and you really seem to like the facts that were in the throughout the program. And so I thought that was cool, just how you would pick out on a lot of things like that. And also, you're also really active already. And I think it's cool to have a youth like you in the program where you could share some of that you've done already with your habitat restoration projects. And I look forward to that because I know, like, in camping last year, we got to do hands-on restoration. It was a real bummer that we weren't able to do that this year. But since Jack is doing that for his project, he actually opened it up where if we want to help participate and help with that in small groups with masks and stuff, we're actually able to do restoration. So if people are comfortable with doing that, you know, they can jump in and help Jack. And I look forward to helping you with your project ongoing. So thank you for being part of the program. Jacob, I think this is a digital representation of your certificate as well. I really appreciated you being in the program. You're very curious, so you ask a ton of questions, which I really appreciate because you're always trying to get at the nooks and crannies of the issues. I think you're very funny, and you're also very spirited. You bring a lot of energy. You also brought the group together a lot where you advocated for us having more lunches together. We would either have lunch apart or we would have lunch together some days, and it was a pretty good bonding experience, and you advocated for not just 1 day, but 2 days. So I thought that was good. And also you just brought a lot of fun energy to the program. So I really appreciated you being in the program. So thank you for participating. Katie, I think this is a digital representation of your certificate. I really appreciate you being in the program. We only had so many paid slots for the program, and we did fill those up with people who weren't in the program previously for the regular Eco Ambassador level, but you were really dedicated. You're like, hey, even if you can't pay me, I want to be part of the program to learn. It's going to be expanded. So I really appreciate that. I think it really shows your passion for the issue. You were very insightful in bringing a lot of different things that you've already learned previously, just from your own personal life and the program before. So I thought that was great how you always kind of brought that in, and you made a lot of connections between different issues. So I really appreciated that about you in the program. So I want to thank you for being part of the program for the second year. Mia, this is a digital representation of your certificate as well. So I really appreciate you being in the program, and it was really cool to see you progress over the 3 years. that you were a part of it. You definitely helped me plan a lot of the program. Mia brought a lot to the table in helping shape the program. And you brought just tons of good ideas, and I really appreciated that. You also acted as a mentor, and I think you're a great leader when it comes to environmental stuff. And you also showed a lot of mentorship and leadership when you would help out in discussions and you know, keep things going that way. So I really appreciated you being in the program previously and especially this year. So thank you a lot for being in the program this year. And so we're actually I'm gonna email you all a digital copy of your certificate, and then we are gonna mail some to you as well. And then I really want to commend you all, because you all have really stepped up and learned, and I watched you grow a lot during the program. Because as I always say, you're not the leaders of tomorrow, you're today's leaders, and you are all stepping into that role wholeheartedly and with lots of passion and energy. I think that we added a little bit of education and showed a little bit of connection to you, and then you're just running with that. And I just so appreciate that about you. That you're really today's leaders. And I'll say this again, and I said this just to the youth before, but parents, I'm going to share a secret with you, that the actual biggest impact, or the biggest thing that led to adults taking change, is youth getting involved and then asking their parents, hey, I'm concerned about this issue. What are you doing about it? And do you think that's enough? And also sharing how it actually makes them feel. So youth, you're not the driver of change tomorrow, you're really what we need today. And so I really appreciate you having big ideas, focusing on what's good for everybody, and then especially put it into action, because you are gonna bring a lot of healthy change to your communities, and I think it's really exciting. And like I mentioned before, I did order you all Feelergy books. I actually got a book published on Amazon called Feelergy, and I use that. It's kind of a coloring book, an inspirational book that is a manifestation of like all the different seminars and stuff I've done over time. They actually came early. So they weren't supposed to come until mid-August. They came early. I'm going to be mailing them out to you tomorrow. So you'll get them free of charge. They're on sale on Amazon for $12.95. So you get it for free, and you might have a little signature in there or something, you know, that makes it like 20 times more valuable. But some of the exercises in there, it's not just a coloring book, but it also has a lot of worksheets and stuff to help you, because when you're on your journey of taking action, you're going to run into a lot of barriers, and a lot of it's going to be emotional, and you're going to need to work through that, not run from it. So like this drawing here, it's basically one picture but duplicated 4 times. And so the exercise for this one is when you're frustrated, or you have some something that you want to take action on, but maybe you have some barriers, or you can prevent it, or there's roadblocks, you would color the bottom left quadrant as if you took no action on the issue, and how you would feel taking 0 action. And then the upper left and the upper right, you color as if you start to think about maybe you can take action and how you would feel about that, color accordingly. And then the upper right, you would color, you think, hey, I took action, I took healthy action, I made healthy changes in my community or in this project. How do I feel now? And then so you can see the color change, you can really feel it and like harness those emotional energy. So that's a little glimpse into the Feelergy book. There's exercises like that, and there's just a lot of cool things to color, in my opinion. Yeah, so that's my book on Amazon, $12.95, but you get it for free because I really like you guys. And then if you have a telephone, you can scan or take a picture of this QR code. It actually goes to the Break Free from Plastic website. It's a great resource where it's a major toolkit for how to tackle plastic waste in schools. So I think you all are excited about that as a toolkit. And then I just want to mention that the program is funded by generous support from our donors. I think Valerie is going to paste the URL into the chat. If you do want to make a donation, and this is being recorded for other funders that we have and other people that are interested in the program, if you do want to help support the program, you can. by going to that link there. And we really appreciate donors like Countryside Church UU. They actually initially got the program going, because with a nonprofit, everything is about, do we have the funds for it? They saw that there was the Chicago program and they were donating to the Chicago program. And then they asked me a question, why isn't the program out here in the North and West Suburbs? And I'm like, that's a really great question. And then so I went to my executive director and he was like, basically funding, if we had funds for it, you know, we could pay you time to actually run the program out there. Because we pay the youth eco ambassadors to participate as stipend. So we did some fundraising. They actually gave money. They launched it back 4 years ago. They stepped up their donations. We got more people involved to give donations. We went from 2 people for 2 weeks to 2 people for, or 3 people for 1 week. We went to then 4 people for 2 weeks. And then this year, I really think it was the eco ambassadors at the celebration event that we held at the end of last year, saying how much the program meant to them. My executive director was there, and then he really made a commitment then to expand the program to the Central Illinois location and make sure that it was in Lake County as well. So you're all, things that you shared in this video are gonna go a long way to support the program, and I really thank you. You are all really awesome. Because together, we have big ideas and we know that it needs to be climate justice for all people. We're bringing about solutions for everybody. You guys are focused on action, and I love you guys for that, because together we're going to bring about a whole lot of positive change. And I look forward to working with you ongoing the first and third Thursdays, 7 to 8, just to make sure that, you know, you have momentum going in your projects and you have everything that you need. So I'm super excited about that. That concludes the North and West 2020 graduation and celebration event. I appreciate you all coming. If you want to hang around afterwards and ask questions, you can. But I'm going to stop the recording now, I think. Does anybody know how to stop recording?